This is the story of a truck driver named Ethan Cole, whose life changed forever on a cold winter night in 2016, along a lonely desert highway in America. Ethan had spent most of his years on the road, and like every long-haul driver, he had heard dozens of stories at diners and truck stops to pass the time. But one night, he discovered that some stories aren't just tales, they're warnings. It was around 1 a.m. when Ethan was driving along Route 86, a long, empty highway between Nevada and Utah. The temperature had dropped below freezing, and the world outside his windshield was nothing but darkness and sand. He'd been driving for over 12 hours, half asleep, trying to keep his eyes open. To stay alert, he flipped through the CB radio, listening to a couple of truckers joking about a woman who appeared crying on the side of the road near Marble Creek, an abandoned area ahead. Ethan smiled, thinking it was just another ghost story, but minutes later, his radio went dead. Then, he smelled something unusual. Damp soil, like rain had fallen, though the sky was clear. And then he heard it, faint crying, cherried on the wind. Slowing down, his headlights revealed a pale figure standing on the shoulder. A barefoot woman in a torn white dress, hair covering her face. She didn't move, just stood and cried. Ethan rolled down the window. "Are you okay?" he asked. She slowly raised her head, showing tear-streaked cheeks, and whispered, "Can you take me home?" Despite fear, Ethan unlocked the door. She climbed in silently. The air inside the truck turned icy cold, and he could see his breath. She sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, staring ahead. "What's your name?" he asked. After a pause, she said, "Hannah." Then silence again. The heater stopped working. "Where do you live?" he asked. 10 miles ahead," she said softly. "You'll see a dirt road on the right." They drove in silence until she asked, "Do you hear it?" "Hear what?" he replied. "The crying," she whispered. He listened. At first, only the engine. Then he thought he heard the faint sound of a child softly crying behind the seats. Ethan slammed the brakes. The sound stopped. He grabbed his flashlight and checked the back cabin. A small, wet handprint glistened on the window. When he wiped it away, his sleeve came back damp and cold. Returning to the driver's seat, he realized Hannah was gone. The passenger seat was empty, the door closed, the seat belt swaying slightly. Ethan jumped out, scanning the road. Then, right near his ear, he heard a whisper. "You shouldn't have stopped." Panicked, he climbed back in and floored the gas. The radio came back on by itself, static first, then a faint voice saying, "Don't leave me here." 10 minutes later, he saw lights of a diner and pulled in, shaking. Inside, an old man was mopping the floor. "Route 86?" he asked. When Ethan nodded, the man's face went pale. "You picked her up." He explained that 10 years ago, a woman crashed her car near Marble Creek. She was found barefoot a short distance from the wreck. Drivers still reported seeing her at night, asking for a ride. He added, "Check your passenger seat." Outside, he saw fog on his window, and traced across it were the words, "Thank you for the ride." He didn't sleep that night. By morning, faint outlines of the letters were still there. The old man warned him again to take a detour, but he returned to Route 86. Hours later, At Marble Creek Bridge, the air became damp and heavy. His phone lost signal, and he noticed a bouquet of white lilies on the road, tied with a ribbon. He bent to move them, and the air turned icy. The ribbon had a tag: Hannah Clark, 1985, 2016. His heart raced. Then he heard crying from beneath the bridge. Against all reason, he approached. The crying stopped, and a soft voice whispered, "Ethan, why did you leave me?" His foot touched something soft, a torn veil, lying in the dirt. A gust lifted it, brushing his face. Ethan ran back to the truck and drove off. In the rearview mirror, he saw a shadow in the passenger seat, head bowed. Then it vanished. A few miles later, a patrol officer stopped him. "You alone?" the officer asked. Ethan said yes. The officer frowned. "I could have sworn I saw someone sitting next to you." Ethan left. That night, he stayed at a small motel. The TV kept turning on to Channel 8. At 3 a.m., it showed news about police reopening the 2016 case of Hannah Clark. The screen cut to static. Even unplugged, he thought he heard soft crying. He left at sunrise, told his company the alternator failed, and never drove that highway again. 2 weeks later, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was an old photo of a young woman in a white dress standing beside a car. On the back, it read, "Thanks for trying to take me home." Ethan never took Route 86 again, but sometimes, at night, the radio fills with static and faint sounds like crying. New drivers still talk about a barefoot woman waving for help. One told Ethan he didn't stop, but the next morning found damp spots on the passenger seat and a single white lily on the floor. Ethan said quietly, "If you ever hear crying on a desert highway, don't stop. Some people never made it home, and they're still looking for someone who will."